Okay, first of all, before we even get into the case itself, it's important that students understand what the government wanted to censor in the New York Times versus United States case. And what they wanted to censor was known as the Pentagon Papers, or at least given that nickname by the media. They were basically a confidential history of America's involvement in the Vietnam War. And this was written by the Defense Department itself and carried a lot of details of the American involvement in Vietnam way back to before it became an actual war, and even back towards World War II and during the French occupation of Vietnam, and essentially saying where we went wrong, some of the secrets that the American people didn't know about, and this was all stolen from the Defense Department by one of the people who authored it, a man named Daniel Ellsberg, and it was leaked to several newspapers, including the New York Times, and it was going to be published in excerpt form, meaning the whole thing was too big to publish all at once, and so it was going to be published over several issues. The first excerpt was published by the New York Times, and the U.S. government got an injunction. And an injunction means that a federal judge orders something to stop until it can be resolved by the courts. And so an injunction was issued to stop the publication of any more excerpts of the Pentagon Papers until the courts could take a look at it. And so the Pentagon Papers themselves were the issue, but in this case, but basically the claim that the government made was that a threat to national security should override the freedom of the press. And so, in other words, the government should have the ability to censor the media if national security can be threatened. And so it was kind of a split victory here. In the case of the Pentagon Papers itself, the court decided that the Pentagon Papers were as much a discussion of the past as anything in the future. So it wasn't really a threat to our national security to have it printed. However, the precedent set did basically list or explain when the government can censor. And in this situation, basically, the government cannot censor the press unless their reporting creates an immediate threat to national security or puts troops in danger. And so, it's very limited, but there are situations in which the government can censor the media. And so that was kind of the outcome from the New York Times versus the United States. And before you leave this lesson, you're going to be asked to judge some scenarios and decide whether or not the government could censor in those situations. But that's it. New York Times versus the United States says that the government can censor in very specific situations if the reporting creates an immediate threat to national security or puts troops in danger.